Welcome back to A New Narrative, a series where I simply share nice ideas I come across that invite us to think about how the world could be. There's this idea that I keep coming across, each time with a different name but the same core. The idea that humankind is entering into a new era, one of realization and transformation. Many of us are aware that the way the world works today is unsustainable, and we can't continue business as usual if we want life as we know it to continue. The human race needs to stop and think for a minute. We need to realize, fully absorb the fact that we are part of nature and yet we're destroying nature, and then change and live in a way whereby we don't destroy nature. And apparently, as difficult as it may be to believe, that process has already begun. I've been reading this book called Active Hope: How to Face the Mess We're In Without Going Crazy by Joanna Macy and Johnstone. In the book, they talk about the Great Turning, a spiritual revolution that's currently taking place and will have as much an impact on our species as the agricultural and industrial revolutions. But instead of technological advancement, the Great Turning is more of a cognitive or spiritual revolution. Quote, a transition from a doomed economy of industrial growth to a life-sustaining society committed to the recovery of our world. In this book, it's called The Great Turning, but I've also seen this idea referred to as the long reflection, the metacognitive revolution, the arising of space consciousness, the ecozoic era, the era of the learning society, and the time of Homo reflectus. But essentially, they all share the sentiment that we're entering a time where we as a species gain a deeper awareness of how connected we all are to life, and then change our behavior accordingly. Like, we stop this senseless pursuit of endless growth and consumption, which leads to the destruction of the land, biodiversity, and ourselves. At one point in this book, they represent the time since the emergence of Homo sapiens till now as a 24-hour day starting at midnight. It's not until 6 p.m. that we leave Africa, almost 11 p.m. that we start using agriculture, and the Industrial Revolution didn't start until 2 minutes before midnight. And, quote, in the last 20 seconds, that is, since 1950, we've used up more resources and fuel than all human history before this. While this is terrifying, I think it also gives hope. People often say that humanity is doomed, we're selfish and power-hungry by nature. But when we take a step back and see how much our species has gone through, not to mention the diverse ways of living within our species even today, it doesn't make sense to think that we're definitely doomed to continue down this self-destructive path. It doesn't feel like such a stretch to think that maybe we'll evolve to develop a deeper state of connectedness with the land and other life and create systems that allow all life to flourish. People used to imagine the future with flying cars and teleportation, but no one could have anticipated the creation of the internet and what that would bring. Who's to say we won't go through an equally surprising change? The future doesn't have to mean futuristic technology. It could be a change within us. Maybe the future is a healthy planet, abundant in biodiversity, gratitude, equality, and community. And if you look in a glass half full sort of a way, you can see how that's already happening. At one point, we became conscious that the world is round and we're not at the center of the universe. We've seen the abolishment of a once normalized global slave trade, fights for equal rights for women, people of color, and the queer community, as well as an overall realization of how this developed world was built on slavery and colonization, and that we've lost so much as a result. And today, mountains and rivers are being granted rights all around the world, which helps protect them from pollution and acknowledges their intrinsic value as beings, not just as resources for us to exploit. Sure, it's a very modern, human-centered way of going about it, and granting rights to nature isn't a perfect solution. And, of course, today we're far from a safe, equal, and ecologically healthy society, and in many ways we've gone backwards. But this is a hopeful video, and I think when we look at our recent history relative to our whole existence, it is possible to see this great turning taking place. To finish, I want to talk about this idea on an individual level, because this humanity I'm talking about is, of course, made up of individuals. And taking one individual as an example, me, I can see how much my own narrative of the world and how it works has changed over the years. thanks to my exposure to my studies, books, discussions with friends, and even, dare I say, social media. For example, until the age of, 23, I loved Zara, Topshop, H&M, all those fast fashion shops. A big shopping centre was my happy place. I felt so blissful just strolling around, admiring the clothes, and on lucky occasions buying something. But over time, from talking to friends and seeing information online, I started to learn about fast fashion. And the more conscious I got, the guiltier I started to feel when I went to those shops, until one day I just had no interest whatsoever and no intention of giving them my money. Now, that is not to say I'm an ethical consumer. Far from it. But in just a few years, my reality completely changed, and so did my actions, for the better. Today, I'm so much more conscious when buying things, of the materials used, where it came from, who made it, how long it'll last, and the impact its creation has on the planet. And not just with clothes, but with food, electronics, cosmetics. And I am at the very bottom of this hill of ethical consumption, but at least now I can see the hill. Before I didn't even know it was there. And if that sort of change can happen in an individual, why not the majority of individuals? The more we keep our minds open, reflect, and learn how interconnected we all are with the birds and the bees and the plankton and the trees and other human beings, the more we realize we need to respect and protect them, and the more we change our behavior and take action to do so. And maybe, hopefully, that shift in consciousness will spread and grow, right up until we eventually tip the balance and live in a mutually beneficial way with nature. I want to finish with a quote that inspired this video, and basically sums up this whole idea. It was written by Val Plumwoood, an Australian philosopher and ecofeminist. If our species does not survive the ecological crisis, it will probably be due to our failure to imagine and work out new ways to live with the earth, to rework ourselves and our high energy, high consumption, and hyper-instrumental societies adaptively. We struggle to adjust because we're still largely trapped inside the Enlightenment tale of progress as human control over a passive and dead nature that justifies both colonial conquests and commodity economies. The real threat is not so much global warming itself, which there might still be a chance to head off, as our own ability to see past the post-Enlightenment energy, control, and consumption extravaganza we so naively identify with the good civilized life to a sustainable form of human culture. The time of Homo reflectus, the self-critical and self-revising one, has surely come. Homo faber, the thoughtless tinkerer, is clearly not going to make it. We will go onwards in a different mode of humanity, or not at all.